Hey honey, welcome to my channel Designed by Ida. Today I want to talk to you about the skills you need to be able to work as a fashion designer. So many people ask me this. So many people think that all I do is just sit around and draw and design all day long and look fabulous doing it, of course. But that is very far from the truth. Most of the time I'm sitting in my office and I am just working on specs and measurement charts and emailing all day long and being on the phone and traveling to visit producers and going through all the samples and checking the measurements, checking the fabrics, the colors. It's a lot of work, and the design part is just a very small part of it actually. So in today's video, I want to talk to you about the 17 skills that you need to be able to master to work as a fashion designer. Now, maybe you're coming straight from school, or maybe you're wondering about studying fashion design and you don't know all these skills yet. That's fine. I'm giving you this as a list so that you can work on learning these skills so that you will have what it takes to master being a fashion designer. So here we go. These are the skills you need. They are in a random order, so don't pay attention to what comes first and last. It's just these are the skills you need. Okay, so here we go. The first thing you need as a fashion designer, you need to understand fabrics. You need to know your fabrics, and you need to know the fabrics of the segments you're planning to work in. So for me, when I came from school, I was like pretty much trained in like silk and leather and fur and like amazing natural fibers, and I wanted to make beautiful dresses for the red carpet. Okay, I was coming straight from school and I wanted to make beautiful dresses. That was my plan. But my first job as a fashion designer, and you can't really be picky, when you're coming straight from school, getting a job without having any job experience can be really difficult. So if you get a job, you take it because you need the experience, right? So my first job was being a kids wear designer. Now, kids wear is way different from red carpet dresses, okay? They use the fabrics, their requirements. Whew, I had to learn so much. But that's the thing. You need to learn about fabrics for the segment you're going to be designing for. First of all, you need to know the basics. You need to know the wovens. You need to know the knits. You need to know the natural fibers. You need to know the synthetic fibers. You need to know your fabrics, okay? So spend time in the fabric store. Spend time draping, working with the fabrics. If you can sew, that's amazing. Use that. Get to know the fabrics, because when you're designing, you want to know what fabrics are suitable for a skirt and what fabrics are suitable for a kid's coverall for playing in the kindergarten. You know, it's a very different segment and you need different fabrics for that. So try to study fabrics as much as possible. You need to know your fabrics. And then you need to know the construction of the garments. In my school, I was lucky because my school emphasized learning how to make everything that we designed. So we would practice pattern making and sewing and knitting and dyeing and printing and just everything, because our teachers really wanted us to understand how a garment is made and understand like every part of it. And I'm so thankful for that, because now when I'm working as a fashion designer, I can easily communicate with the producers. And if the producers try to tell me that that's not possible, then I can actually say, well, it is possible. You just change this one and put it over here and you move this dart, you know, and I know how the garment is made, so I can communicate easily, and I can catch the producers when they're trying to trick me because they don't really want to do it. You know, it happens a lot, trust me. So the construction, the garment, how it's made, and sewing techniques. Okay, that's number 3. Sewing techniques. The different seams you can choose from. You know, when you're designing something, you as a designer need to be very specific, and you need to say, I want this seam here, and I want it this far away from the edge, and I want this dart, and I want top stitching, and I want the thread color to be this color. You know, you want to be as specific as possible at the beginning, because it will save you so much time in the product development process. So if you can be really clear and create really, really, really great tech packs, which is the number 4 skill you need to know, you need to be able to define how the garment is going to be put together, what colors it's going to come in, what fabrics, the thread, the trimmings, the inside of the garment, the outside, the measurements of the garment, everything. Everything needs to be put together in a tech pack that you give to the producer along with your design. And so it needs to be clear, it needs to be easy to understand, and as visual as you can make it is really, really great, because sometimes you're communicating with someone who doesn't really speak English or your language, and they're looking at the designs first of all, and they sometimes don't read all of the text. So if you put in the text and the words and you write, you're going to use this zipper here, this button, this seams, you put a lot of text in there, they may not understand all of the text. So they go back to the design and look at the drawing and try to understand it the best that they can. So the more visual you can be, the better, trust me, okay? So the next thing is the measurements. As a fashion designer, you make a design, you decide on the colors and the patterns and the shape and everything, and then you define the shape and the fit of the garment by putting down the measurements. Now, sometimes you only put the measurements for your sample size. So maybe your sample size is size small. So you define the measurements of what a size small would look like, how wide it will be, how long it will be, how deep the neckline will be, the shoulders, how long it will be, everything, you know, and like how high the rib on the sweatpants will be, every single thing, every measurement will be defined by you. Now, I normally grade the measurements as well. So by grading it, I mean that I define the measurements for every single size. So if I'm doing a dress and it comes in size extra small to extra, extra large, okay? Then I will define all the measurements of all the sizes. I do this. Not all fashion designers do this. Many people have product developers or pattern makers or other people in their team who will do this for them, so the fashion designer doesn't have to worry about this. But as my first job was kids wear designer, there were no product developer, there were no one else around. I was the team. So I had to figure out how to do everything myself. And I'm glad I did. It was a lot of work. It was long hours, late nights, some all-nighters. So it was a lot of work, but I learned so much from it. So, and that takes me to the next skill. You need to always keep learning. As a fashion designer, you never really stop. You're always learning. You're always learning more about different fabrics, more about different techniques, more about the new tech coming out, you know, the smart wear, the jackets with the microphones and speakers built in, you know. There's so much to learn always. And about the fabrics changing color in different temperatures, and prints appearing when the garment is wet. Like, there's so much tech out there. And if you're working in sportswear, tech is crucial and you need to stay up to date. You need to know all the new zippers that are coming out, all the new trimmings, all the new fabrics and the breathability and the waterproof measurements and the abrasion strength, and there's so much to learn. So as a fashion designer, you need to keep learning. You need to never ever just rest and say, "Ugh, I know all of this, I'm amazing." No, you need to always stay hungry, always stay up to date. And if you find yourself leaving one job and applying for a new job, you need to know what's going on in the market. You need to know what the customers are looking for. You need to know what's going on with the trends and the fashion and the tech. You need to just stay up to date and always be ready to shift and move around. And, you know, if you're going to design for a different brand or a different company or whatever, you need to be able to change, especially in the time that we're living in, because let's face it, this has been a really strange year and a lot has changed. And we all have to like find new ways of working and communicating and doing things. So be ready to learn and just learn to love it, okay? And then the next skill is you need to have tough skin. So the fashion industry is very competitive and not everyone is very sweet and kind and loving to you. And you need to just learn to deal with that and just to not take it personal. And another tip that I want to give you is to learn how to love critiques. And that might sound really, really strange, but I made a video on that, so you can check that out. I'll leave a link to it below. And what I mean by that is when someone is critiquing your work, take their critiques and use it. If they're telling you that I don't love your colors, not sure about that fabric, that print, that pattern, the fit is not so good, the high waist, it's not really working, it needs to be a little bit lower, whatever it is, take it, use it to improve your designs for next time, okay? So learn to love critiques. It's especially important in fashion design, okay? The next skill is networking and relationships. So networking is really, really important because you need to know people in order to hear about job openings and in order to source new producers and hear about new fabrics and new developments coming out. And you need to just network and just use your antennas to stay up to date and to stay in touch, because one day is going to come and then you're going to be like, wait, that knit pattern, I heard someone talk about that like 3 years ago. I wonder what that person's name was and where that person is working. You need to stay in touch, because then you can pull on your network later on and you can get information, you can get contacts, you can work together on many projects. You just need to stay in touch, okay? Networking is important. Also, maintaining really good relationships with the people you work with, and even like colleagues or your boss or whoever it is. Maybe you don't, maybe they're not your favorite people, but you need to like keep it professional and smile and just keep a good relationship anyway, because maybe that colleague will one day be the boss of another company that you're applying for a job for. The fashion design industry is not as big as you might think. So you're going to come across the same people in different companies, trust me, and you want to maintain a good relationship with them to avoid any problems, okay? You don't want to like miss out on a job because you were not being nice to the person in the last company you worked in, okay? So keep that. And also for producers, the personal relationship is really, really important. I have many producers that I've worked with for many, many years, and we stay in touch. Even, this year when things have been kind of crazy, we reach out and we're like, are you safe? Are you well? How is your daughter? We stay in touch because it's so important. And I have many producers that I've worked with for many years. And when I maybe leave a brand or I stop designing for a brand, that brand maybe struggle to connect with that producer because the producer is very attached to me. And it's difficult to explain it, but producers can be very personal about who they want to work with, and you want to keep a good relationship with them. You want to treat them with respect and kindness, and you want to be steady, and you don't want to be undecisive and like weak. You want to be clear about what you want and your expectations, but you also want to be kind and respectful in doing so. And you will have a good relationship with the producers and you will work with them for a long time. Okay? So another skill you need is organizing. Now, if you're like me you're creative and you love designing and you love just creating and making new things, and you're just like all over the place, and your desk or your office or the place where you work doesn't exactly look organized. I get it. I'm the same way. Okay? So that's fine. But when I say organized, I mean like on your computer, because you're mostly working on a computer, you have clear folders for every garment, right? So you have the something jacket, and in that folder you have the spec, the measurement chart, the back and front drawing, you have the colors, you have the fabrics, you have all the details of that jacket in that folder, so it's quick for you to find it and easy. And so I want you to practice remembering things. If you're a person that forgets things easily, that's going to be a problem. Because as a fashion designer, it's very, very busy, and you keep answering emails and being on the phone and being in meetings and making changes and adjustments all day long, every single day. And you need to remember what you have done and what you have told the different people so you can follow up. And I remember I was a designer for a sportswear company, and at any given time during the day, people would come into my office from the marketing department or from the buyers or from the logistics, any kind of department. They would come into my office and they would ask questions like, where are those jackets right now? How are we doing on the soft shell coverall? How are those pants coming along? You know, and I would always need to remember, okay, so that fabric is getting ready to ship next week. We just approved the colors for that shirts. The buttons for that one is coming in now. The ship should be coming in from China tomorrow. You know, you have a lot in your mind, and you need to be able to remember a lot of things at once. So if you're bad at that, bonus tip, practice. Practice, 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 because the more on top of things you are, the easier it is for everyone around you to work with you, because you can answer them quickly and you can just be on top of things and just be in control. And being in control as a fashion designer is key, because if you're a mess, the whole collection will be a mess, and it will be a problem for everyone around you. The clothes will not come in on time, the print will be incorrect, the fabric, the colors, so many things can go wrong. So you need to stay on top of things always, okay? Just my tip to you, bonus tip. Okay, so what else do you need to know? You need to know how to source fabrics, how to source producers, how to source trimmings. You need to learn how to source things. And sometimes I go on Alibaba.com and I search for things there. And sometimes I travel to China, I go to the fair, or I talk to people, you know, the network. I reached out to someone that I know who is working in that country or working in that segment, and I reach out to them and I ask them, have you worked with someone in this category? I need someone who can make really great hats, or, you know, whatever it might be. So sourcing is key, because you may be, okay, so one time I was working with a rainwear producer. Everything was set. We had gone through the first samples. We were in the middle of the product development process. Everything was working great. And then all of a sudden, they come back to me and they say, sorry, we're swamped. A big company just placed a massive order, and we, like, all of our production capacity is just maxed out, so we can't produce this rainwear for you anymore. Sorry. And if you're small, you can get squeezed out easily. So I had to, like, so fast source another producer and start the product development process again from scratch with a brand new producer. And it was a lot of work and it was scary. And when I do this, I always work with like 2 or 3 in the beginning, and then I narrow it down to who produces the best samples and who's easy to work with and communicate with and all of those things. And price is important, of course. So sourcing is something you need to know. The next thing you need to know is negotiating and understanding the business side of it. Because when you're designing, most likely you will have a target price to work with. The garment you're designing is gonna have a target price when it hits the store. And in order for you to get there, you need to choose the fabrics and the trimmings and the workmanship and everything within that range. So, and also you need to be able to negotiate because the producer wants to make more money. So they're gonna ask for a higher price, and then you need to be able to negotiate and say, well, if I cancel this pocket and if we change this zipper to this zipper, then you need to bring down your price because this is where my level is at, and you need to come and meet me at this level. Otherwise, I'm gonna find another producer. And you need to really, you need to be smart. You need to know how much this garment should cost, and you need to be able to negotiate. I have negotiated many times, and I have brought down the prices quite a bit, and it's important, okay? And then there's a skill that you can't live without if you're gonna work as a fashion designer, and that is knowing how to design in Adobe Illustrator. If you know Photoshop as well, that's really great. I mean, I use Photoshop a lot when I'm designing prints and making patterns and stuff like that, but Adobe Illustrator is where I spend most of my design time. That's where I draw all the flats, that's where I make the patterns, that's where I make the, I put the colors together and see how they work, and I make the whole collection basically in Illustrator. And you need to know it. It's the industry standard. You can know other design programs, and that may work for you, but most of the time, if you're going to be hired to work as a fashion designer, you need to know Illustrator. It's just a requirement. You need to know it. So practice, please. And if you know Photoshop as well, that's amazing. It's not a necessity like Illustrator, but Illustrator you need to know. And speaking of software and programs, you need to know Excel. And Excel may be something that it's like, of course I know Excel, but a lot of people don't know Excel. So I'm putting it out there. You need to know Excel because when you're doing specs and measurement charts, you are very likely to be working in Excel. I usually work in Excel, and I make the formulas, you know, like from when I do the grading for the measurement charts, maybe the waist width increases by a certain amount for every size, and then I just put in the formula and it can calculate every size for me. So it saves me a lot of time. So knowing Excel and knowing how to do certain formulas and things like that can make it easier for you. And then when you're changing something, because when you're doing the product development process, which is my next skill that you need to know, when you're doing the product development process, you get the first sample, which is usually ugly and doesn't have the right fit and isn't in the right fabric, and it's just like a starting point. So when you get that sample and you do a fitting, you may see that, I need to change the waist 1 inch or something. And then it would be easier for you if you can just put it into Excel in your starting size, and then Excel will do the grading for the other sizes. So if you know the formulas and you can put them in, then making the changes is so much easier for you because you can just work on the one starting size and then the rest will follow. Okay, so that's a good thing. So as I mentioned, the next skill is the product development process. As a fashion designer, you need to know how it all works. You need to know what you do in the beginning. So what I mentioned, like you do the designs, you do the tech packs, you do the measurement charts, and you start talking to the producer and you get the first sample, and then you get the second sample, and you get the fit samples, you know, to check the size of the measurements of every size. And then you check the salesman samples, and then you have the pre-production samples, and then you have the shipment samples and all the trimmings and the fabrics and the lab dips and everything in between. So understanding the product development process is super important. You need to know that, okay? And if you're coming straight from school, you won't know that yet, but talking to someone like me or watching my videos might help you learn how to do that. Okay? Another skill that you're gonna need as a fashion designer, you need to be ready to work at all hours, because being a fashion designer is not a 9-to-5 job. It just isn't. Some parts of the year it might be, but most of the time it's really, really hectic. And you're designing a collection and the buyers are asking you, what time are the sale samples coming? We need to be out there. We need to be presenting the sale samples. We need to collect the orders. We need to, market it, all these things, right? So everyone is always asking you, where are the photo samples? Where are the salesman samples? We need to have a fitting next week. Where are the fit samples? So much is happening all the time. And you can't just be like, oh, it's 5 o'clock. I'm going to go home now. Bye. You can't do that. You need to stay on top of things. So no matter what time it is, no matter if you're on vacation, you need to stay on top of things. Like, I have been on vacation. I have been on the beach with my Mac or with my phone, my smartphone, and I've been like placing orders to China, and I've been approving things, and I've been by the pool talking to the talking to the producers on Skype and being like, no, that print is not approved. Try again. Call me back in an hour. Not approved. You cannot go ahead with this. And you need to do this, because if you just log off and say, sorry, I'm done, then the producers will be delayed because they will have to wait for your approval the next day. And you may delay the whole production line. And the producers are usually very hectic. Well, most of them are very busy. So the producers may have a slot for you to produce the jackets that you want to order, right? And if you are delayed every single day and every single week with approving the print and the colors and the fabrics and the threads, then you may miss your slot, and they're going to be like, okay, you're not ready, so we're just going to have to fill your slot and produce these jackets for another brand, and then you're going to get a later slot. So your entire timeline will be delayed, and the garments that you have designed will arrive too late in the stores, and your store owners will be unhappy, your customers will be unhappy. It will be a nightmare. So you need to just work, no matter what time it is, no matter if you're on vacation, if it's Saturday, Sunday, Christmas Eve, doesn't matter. If you're a fashion designer, you're working, okay? So just understand that, because it's the reality, okay? The next thing you need to know is the glossary, like the words, the phrases that are being used a lot, because if you're coming straight from school and you're just starting to design and you're talking to a producer, they're going to say a lot of things that you're not going to understand. And that also happens if you have gone to fashion school that haven't taught you how to sew, how to knit, how to make patterns. That if you haven't learned fabric construction, then you're going to have a hard time understanding all the words coming out of your producer's mouth, okay? So understanding what all the things are called, what the different seams are called, what you call the different fabrics, the fibers, there's a lot to learn, and you need to know the glossary of fashion. I remember one time I was looking for silk chiffon fabric, and I went into a fabric store, and the person working there really didn't know what I was talking about. So I asked her, do you have silk chiffon? And she was like, we have chiffon. And I was like, that's great. Do you have silk chiffon? And she just really could not understand that there was a difference. She was like, we have chiffon. And I was so frustrated because I did not want polyester chiffon. I wanted silk chiffon. And she didn't understand that chiffon comes with many different fibers. And it was really frustrating for me as a fashion designer. So just know your glossary, know your fibers, know your fabrics, know your seams and everything you need to know. Okay? Yes. And then there's another skill that you need as a fashion designer, and this is basically a skill that you need in life as well. Solving problems. So many times in fashion, things happen, things go wrong, and you need to be able to think fast and change it and come up with a solution. I can't even count how many times I've had to do this, and it's been like crucial, like huge problems, no time, and you just have to think fast and come up with a solution. And a lot of times you are the one that people come to. So the pattern maker, the product developer, the buyer, like whoever it is, they're all running to you and they're like, big problem, what are we gonna do? And you have to be the one who comes up with the solutions. So learn how to come up with solutions, practical solutions, and be ready to think fast, okay? And there you have it. These are the skills you need to be able to work as a fashion designer. And I'm gonna give you a bonus tip. If you're coming straight from fashion school and you are looking for an internship somewhere, or you're applying for a job, you're trying to get your first job as a fashion designer, I really want you to take pretty much anything you can get. Because like I said in the beginning, getting the first job as a fashion designer can be really, really difficult because most people don't want to hire someone who doesn't have work experience. Use your networks. So your teachers, the people you go to school with, the people you have met at a fashion party or whatever it is. Use your networks and try to connect with the people you want to design for or have an internship with, and just get as much experience as possible. Because the more experience you have, the better your resume will look. So when you're applying for a job, you can show them that you have designed kids wear, menswear, women's wear, sportswear. You can show a variety of designs that you have made, and you can show that you can do many different things, and that makes you very attractive as a fashion designer. So that's a bonus tip. Just try to get as much experience as possible, even if it might not seem like what you want to do. Like when I came from school and I was ready to do red carpet dresses and I ended up designing kids wear. It was a great learning experience for me. Just absolutely amazing. I learned so much and it added to my resume. So now my portfolio is full of so many different garments, so many different brands I've designed for, because I did it all, okay? Learning process, always keep learning and do it all. Okay? If you like this video, make sure you hit the like button and share it with your friends and subscribe, because I post new tutorials and share my fashion secrets every single Friday. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!